On Tuesday, the House Education Committee spoke with the presidents of Harvard, Penn, MIT, and they faced a lot of tough questions. Many of the videos went viral. And I guess the part that specifically went most viral was the presidents of these organizations refusing to specify whether or not the calls for mass murder of a particular group, genocide of students, were or were not against the codes of conduct against bullying and harassment at places like Harvard. Claudine Gay specifically was asked over and over again whether chants of intifada were violations of Harvard's code of conduct. She didn't give a great answer. I'm just curious, Sachs, obviously you're Jewish, you went to the Ivy League, passionate about free speech, and you've talked about surplus elites, identity politics. He is. What's your take here? Should students be allowed to march around campus, chanting from the river to the sea, intifada, etc., because of free speech? Or, do these code of conducts come into play? And what was your reaction when you saw their answers? Because obviously it's a nuanced issue.
Well, look, I mean, I have a very high bar for free speech, so I would allow, almost everything. The problem that these university presidents have is that's not their position. They're trying to wrap themselves in the cloak of freedom of speech and academic freedom, but that has not been their practice on campus for many years. On a previous program, we talked about that FIRE survey, which polled students about how free they feel to express opinions on campus. The results were dismal for the Ivy League. The Ivy League scored way worse than state schools. And in fact, remember that Harvard got the Blutarski, a 0.0.
Yes. They were last place.
The students there reported that speakers were shouted down. They weren't even invited. They weren't allowed to continue and finish their speeches. So Harvard has an abysmal record on freedom of speech. So it's hard to believe the president of Harvard when she claims that she's standing up for freedom of speech. And in fact, if you were to apply that same standard to other groups, do you really believe? I mean, imagine if the representatives at that hearing had said to the president of Harvard, are you allowed to advocate for genocide of Black people or trans people? I mean, would the answer have been the same? I don't think so.
I agree.
I think absolutely not. So the question is, why are Jews being treated differently than these other groups? And I think this all goes back to kind of woke identity politics, where in the woke ideology, there are certain groups that are victim groups, and there are certain groups that are oppressor groups. And if you're in a victim group, then you get special protections. And if you're in an oppressor group, then it's just assumed that you can't really suffer discrimination or, injustice in that same way. And I think that Jews have basically been put in an oppressor group. They basically are being put in the same group as all white people. And I think this has come as a great surprise to a lot of donors to these university campuses who I think were okay with woke identity politics to some degree when they believed that Jewish people were a potential victim group and that anti-Semitism was being treated as real. And lo and behold, they have found out that no, they're an oppressor group and they're not protected. And even very explicit cases of anti-Semitism are not being recognized by these universities because, again, it doesn't match up with this woke ideology. I think it would have been a lot better for a lot of these donors to realize that woke identity politics was a cul-de-sac. It was something that they should not have wanted to participate in. But I think they're now waking up to the realization that in this, again, oppressor-oppressed dichotomy, they're on the wrong side of that.
I think you're exactly...
And they don't like that realization.
Exactly correct.
Because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away.